In the 10 days I ran away from home, my fiancée still thought I was deliberately giving her the cold shoulder. Her best friend asked, "Why hasn't your husband come to look for you for so long?" She froze for a moment. Then she sneered, "I've been pampering him too much recently. He actually threatened me with a breakup. A little time apart will fix it." A female colleague shook her head and said, "But this time, he really seems serious. He even returned the wedding ring." They bet on how long I could hold out. Some said 3 days. Others said a week. But they had no idea. I would never return in this lifetime. "Mom, next month, I'll be transferred to the Beijing Aerospace Research Institute. Forget about the engagement with Liu Ru." My mother sighed. Looking at me, she said, "Avin, I know you've always been very decisive. But are you really sure? Once you choose this path, you can't regret it." I answered firmly, "Space exploration is my dream. I won't regret it." My mother fell silent for a moment. Then she finally spoke in a low voice. "All right, your father and I support you. After you leave, I'll personally explain it to the Liu family." Late at night, the surroundings were completely silent. I hung up the phone and saw the electronic calendar display July 17th. I decided to go a day earlier. Only 13 days left before I leave. I silently lay back on the couch, picking up the soft pillow to cover my slightly reddened eyes. The second hand of the clock ticked away. I don't know how much time passed, until the sound of the door lock being pressed broke the silence. "How come the lights aren't on?" In the dark, Liu Ru's voice rang out. Then the blinding lights turned on. I squinted my eyes, propped myself up. "Today's a bit tiring." I came home and just collapsed on the couch and fell asleep. Today, there were so many people. I was so busy, I couldn't keep up. If you're tired next time, get some rest earlier. Don't wait for me in the living room," Liu Ru said as she took off her coat. Liu Ru is the head of surgery at the city's first hospital. She's usually so busy that she doesn't have time to stop. I remained silent for a moment. Then I softly spoke. "I saw your colleagues' WeChat moments. Today, it looks like your department had a dinner gathering." Liu Ru's footsteps hesitated for a second. Then she replied, "There's a new colleague. I just went to say hello. Then there was a surgery, so I left early." "Don't overthink it," she said flatly. I just smiled and didn't say anything else. "Go take a shower first." After Liu Ru entered the bathroom, I unlocked my phone again. What appeared was a group photo of Liu Ru's department gathering. The guy with long hair in the middle of the photo, looking carefree, was the star of the gathering. A surgeon who had returned from studying abroad, with a bright future ahead. He was also Liu Ru's first love when she had just returned to the country. Boater. Liu Ru stood beside him, a handsome man and a beautiful woman. They truly seemed like a perfect match. This wasn't the first time I had seen Boater. The first time was about a month ago, when I borrowed Liu Ru's computer and accidentally opened a hidden folder. Inside were all photos of Boater. Just as I was lost in those memories, the phone suddenly rang. I looked at the screen. It was a video call from Aunt Liu. I answered the call. On the other end was a smiling, elegant lady. She asked, "Avin, have you eaten yet? Has she not come back yet?" "Auntie, she's back. She's taking a shower." Liu Ru's been very busy lately. It's rare to see her. Thinking about how Liu Ru had just entered the bathroom, I gently knocked on the door. The door wasn't fully closed, so it opened with just a push. I saw Liu Ru hurriedly press the screen of her phone, her smile still frozen on her lips. She was probably chatting with Boater just now, otherwise she wouldn't have looked so rushed. I casually handed her the phone. It was the video from Aunt Liu. Liu Ru took the phone. Her smile faded slightly. Then she asked, "Mom, What's the matter? I smiled and said, It's nothing. I just wanted to remind you. You're both getting married now. Why aren't you learning to take care of the family? I just wanted to remind you. The wedding is coming up soon. In just a few months, the wedding banquet will be held. You need to find time to take wedding photos. Liu froze for a moment, then lowered her head, cutting me off. Mom, it's still early. There's no such an outstanding boy like Avon. Aren't you worried that one day he'll leave? Aunt Liu said with a worried look. Liu glanced at me quietly beside her, smiled slightly. He won't. Aunt Liu became anxious. You're just relying on the fact that Avon has liked you since childhood. I'm warning you. Our two families are old friends. You can't let him down. Hearing these words, a trace of fluctuation passed through my eyes. For Liu, I gave up the best aerospace university and chose Huada University instead. But Liu turned around and went to study abroad. After graduating with a master's and doctoral degree in aerospace, I had originally planned to work at a prestigious research institute in Beijing. But because Liu returned to the country, I stayed in South City. Everyone thought I loved Liu so much that I couldn't let go. Even Liu herself thought so. Perhaps no one would believe that one day I would choose to leave on my own. But after chasing for so many years, I had to eventually make my own choice. Liu hung up the phone. Frowning, she handed me the phone and said, From now on, just handle Mom's calls. It's always the same few sentences, nothing new. My family is strict. You can't just comment on elders. You can only speak softly. Auntie is just doing this for your own good. Liu carelessly glanced at the phone, then suddenly spoke. Fan, this year work is really too busy. I've thought about it. Let's talk about marriage next year. I'll go explain things to my family. She rarely called me by my full name like this. Clearly, there was an unarguable tone in her voice. My heart felt like it was pricked by something. It was probably for G. Boder. I remembered a week ago, when Liu Ru's good college friend celebrated her birthday. I went to pick her up after finishing overtime, and overheard what her classmates said. Back then, Liu almost stayed abroad for G. Boder. If her parents hadn't strongly opposed it, she might have already settled abroad by now. Now, Boder has finally decided to come back for her. But she must still be unable to let go. Liu is already this drunk. At that moment, I finally understood. I had been living in someone else's shadow all these years. Liu stayed with me, simply because she couldn't have the person she loved most, and chose someone her parents liked. I could understand her return to the country. She always acted so cold toward my parents. It seems her resentment hadn't dissipated. I pulled my thoughts back and suppressed the heaviness in my heart. Lowering my head, I said, Fine. Anyway, I'm busy with work. Let's talk when I have time. By then, you can treat my leaving as a surprise for her reunion with G. Boder. The next day, I woke up early, made a cup of milk, then marked August 1st on the electronic calendar, and made a special note that only 2 days were left before I leave. After I enter the research institute, I will immediately head to the experimental base in the northwest. This was agreed upon with my professor during a phone call. Before that, I had to organize everything that belonged to me at home. Halfway through drinking my milk, Liu came out of the study. Today was a rare day off, but she purposely wore an elegant dress. When she saw me, she spoke softly. There's still something in the hospital today. I have to go out for a bit. Don't wait for me to stir the soup. Drink it and we'll talk later. She often worked late doing surgeries, and her appetite wasn't good, so I would make her some stomach-nourishing soup every week. I looked at the ingredients that had already been taken out and partially thawed, my fingertips trembling slightly. Then I looked at her attire. Recently, there hadn't been any conferences, so why did she need to dress so formally today? But some things are better left unexamined. I didn't confront her. I just smiled and softly said, "Okay, be careful when you go out." Liu Ryu seemed pleased by my obedient attitude. She leaned over and ruffled my hair, smiling as she said, "Don't worry. I remember you said you wanted to eat Qianji's cake last time. I'll bring it for you when I come back." After saying that, she took a sip from the milk cup beside me and casually added, "Next time, when we have time off, I'll go shopping with you at the mall." The sound of the door closing echoed, and the surroundings returned to silence. I didn't drink the milk anymore. I turned and poured the remaining milk into the sink. Then I cleaned the thawed ingredients and placed them into the clay pot. Doing research requires maintaining a good physical condition. After spending so much time giving to others, it was time to take care of myself for once. While the soup was cooking, I took out a box and started organizing things around the house. The box contained old clothes, as well as almost brand new couple mugs and couple towels. These were things I bought a year ago, but Liu Ryu never used them once. We were all adults now. Why bother with these matching items? This was something Liu Ryu had said back then. After working for a while, I put everything into the community donation box. I donated everything to the children in the impoverished mountainous areas. I also made several trips to clean up. Once everything was finished, it was already afternoon. The soup had simmered perfectly. I served myself a bowl and casually scrolled through today's WeChat moments. I saw 2 new updates. One was from a college classmate who had ended a long-term relationship. She posted a photo of their marriage certificate announcement. I replied with congratulations. The other post was from Liu Ru's third party, Li Xier. It was a photo of the sunset by the sea. The caption read, "To tomorrow. To the past." In the photo, under a coconut tree near the beach, a familiar couple's figures were stretched by the sunset. The woman was Liu Ryu. The man was Jiboder. Although only their backs were visible, I was struck by Jiboder's long, wavy, curly hair. The location tag under the image showed it was at a restaurant known for its beautiful sunset. It had once been a place I had begged Liu Ryu to visit for a long time, but never did. I lowered my head and nonchalantly took a sip of soup, but the next second, tears uncontrollably fell into the soup. That day, Liu Ryu came back very late. I had already fallen asleep early, and we didn't even get to see each other's faces. The next evening, my university roommate Meng Tong invited me to dinner. By the time I arrived at the most famous restaurant in South City, Wanghu Tower, it was already 8 o'clock. As the waiter led me to the reserved private room, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. "Boder has returned from abroad. He spoke to everyone. If you need anything in the future, feel free to contact me. I'll definitely help." I paused in my steps. Through the slightly ajar door, I looked inside the room, where the leaders and professors from the First City Hospital were sitting. Liu Ryu was holding a glass and offering a toast, and Jiboda stood beside her, smiling gently, shyly. Liu Ryu had always been proud. She never liked these social formalities. I still remembered when I first started working, she complained to me about how difficult it was to get along with the leaders. She simply told me in passing, "You just need to do your job well." It turned out she didn't not understand these things. She simply didn't care about them, because I was never worthy of her heart. A bitter pain spread from my heart to my throat and surged up to my chest. The waiter's voice brought me back from my thoughts. "Sir, are you all right?" I shook my head, eyes reddened, and softly said, "It's nothing. I entered the private room. When Ming Tong saw me, her eyes widened immediately, with a hint of reproach on her face. You actually showed up. I froze for a moment, realizing that since I had been with Liu Ryu, I had indeed rarely met up with friends. I not only gave up my own career, but I had also gradually distanced myself from my social circle. I thought for a moment, then smiled apologetically. Sorry, Tong Tong. Meng Tong quickly pulled me to her side. Her tone softened. Come on. I was just joking. I know you're getting married at the end of the year. You must be very busy. When I heard the word married, I stayed silent for a while, before softly saying 3 words. We're not getting married. Meng Tong was stunned, her eyes wide open, her expression full of confusion. Why? We've been such good friends for so many years. I've done so much for Liu Ryu. She should understand, right? Before I could speak, Meng Tong's boyfriend, Shen Weiren, walked in. As soon as he entered the room, he shouted loudly, Baby, I just saw Liu Ryu outside. She was with a man in the building. It's definitely not Ryu fan. Is this ... Before he finished his sentence, he saw me. And his voice suddenly cut off, like someone had grabbed his throat. It stopped immediately. My face turned pale in an instant. I didn't expect Meng Tong's temper to be so fiery. She had already run out, yelling, Where are those 2 dogs? By the time I reacted and ran out after her, Meng Tong had already stopped Liu Ryu and Jibota in the hallway. Jibota was dressed in a white suit. Liu Ryu was leaning half of her tall body against him. They looked very intimate. As soon as Meng Tong appeared, Liu Ryu immediately straightened up and prepared to speak. But Meng Tong already exploded. Liu Ryu, I didn't expect you looking all perfect to actually do such a thing. How could you betray Yi Fan? And you? Sir, do you know she has a fiancé? You're so proper. Are you tired of living? Do you have to be so eager to play the side role? I heard these words, and saw Liu Ru's expression darken instantly. I knew she was angry, so I quickly stepped forward and stood in front of Meng Tong, interrupting her words. Tong Tong, that's enough! Suddenly, a strong scent suddenly filled the air. I froze for a moment. Then I turned toward Liu Ryu. You've had too much to drink. Liu Ryu didn't answer, her eyes holding a trace of coldness, her voice no longer as gentle as when she left earlier. Yi Fan, you've been following me. She glanced at Meng Tong again, and coldly said, And brought someone along? To catch me? Seeing Meng Tong about to explode, I quickly held her hand, gently shaking my head. I turned to Liu Ryu, my voice slightly hoarse. No! It's a coincidence. We're also eating here today. Jibota, who had been silent until then, suddenly spoke and asked, Are you? This is your fiancé? Liu Ryu didn't answer. Jibota seemed to understand something and wore a knowing expression. He extended his hand to me and said, Ru's fiancé. Hello, I'm Jibota. His name was short, but his tone was filled with confidence, as if everyone around Liu Ryu should know who he was. I could only feel my arm weighed down like 1,000 pounds, unable to move. In name, I was Liu Ru's fiancé, but in Jibota's eyes, I wasn't even worthy of a name. Just from meeting, I had already lost completely, seeing that I didn't move. Jibota added, Just now, Liu Ryu drank too much. I helped her a bit. Your friend might have misunderstood. Meng Tong crossed her arms, with a hint of a cold smile, and sarcastically said, Of course it's a misunderstanding. After all, I wouldn't be so careless with a woman who already has a partner. Liu Ryu finally recovered, rubbing her forehead. She looked at Boda and said, Go ahead. I'll handle this. Jiboda smiled helplessly. Alright. After Jiboda left, Liu Ryu looked at me, wanting to hold my hand. She softly said, "What I said just now was too harsh. I'll explain everything to you when we get home." I suddenly pulled my hand back. It felt like pulling a sharp object out of my heart. I whispered, "No need to explain. I didn't misunderstand. We haven't eaten yet. You should go back. I still have 11 days left before I leave. Any explanation no longer matters to me." As I walked back to the private room, Meng Tong was still muttering, "I don't know what you see in Liu Ryu." I glanced back. Liu Ru's figure had already disappeared. A sharp pain struck my heart. I smiled bitterly. Indeed. Even I couldn't understand why I was like that back then. Tong Tong, I've decided to break up with Liu Ryu. Next month, I'll be working at the North Aerospace Institute. I came today to say goodbye. Sorry. You can't be the bridesmaid anymore. Meng Tong froze for a moment, then immediately hugged me happily. Avin, are you serious? You finally made up your mind. Who would want to be that useless bridesmaid? You were the top student in our department. Do you know what it means to give up on this career? The professors were also regretful about it. We should drink to celebrate. By the time the dinner was over, it was already nearly midnight. Meng Tong, not handling her alcohol well, collapsed directly into her boyfriend Shen Wiren's arms. She kept mumbling that she wanted to keep drinking. Shen Wiren, helpless but affectionate, coaxed her. "Ancestor, you have an early shift tomorrow. Can we drink another time?" I watched them, still so affectionate from college until now. A faint feeling of envy rising in my heart. I smiled and said, "Shen Wiren, quick, take her back." Shen Wiren shook his head, saying, "No, I have to take you back first. Otherwise, she'd definitely throw a tantrum when she wakes up tomorrow." As soon as he finished speaking, a car suddenly stopped at the restaurant entrance. The car window slowly slid down, and Liu Ru's face appeared outside the window. She said, "It's over. Get in the car. I've been waiting for you." When I saw her, the smile gradually faded, and the suppressed pain started to rise in my heart again. But I didn't refuse. After saying goodbye to Meng Tong, I got into the car. Neither of us spoke inside the car. The air was thick with alcohol. It felt suffocating and oppressive. It wasn't until we entered the house that Liu Ryu finally broke the silence. Avin, Jiboda and I were friends when we studied abroad. He just came back and joined our department. Today, I took him and the leaders out to eat. I closed my eyes. A feeling of dizziness swept over me. It seemed to be the effects of the alcohol. I parted my lips, letting out a bitter smile. "Friend, you could have just told me directly. He's your first love." Liu Ru's heart skipped a beat, her brows furrowing tightly. "Who told you that?" Before I could answer, she continued, speaking to herself. "Yes, we did have something. But that was a long time ago." When I heard that, Jiboda's figure appeared in my mind. I recalled all the little details about Liu Ryu. Her appearance when she was completely drunk. The smile at the corner of her mouth when she looked at her phone. The connections she made for Jiboda. And how she had let go of her proud attitude. In that moment, a wave of desolation and tears surged in my heart. Perhaps it was because I had never been there. "Liu Ryu, I don't want to marry you anymore." Liu Ru's face changed suddenly. Her cheek muscles twitched slightly. Then, she asked me excitedly, "Yi Fan, do you even know what you're saying?" The pain became even stronger, my headache intensifying. I was really fed up with this torment. My heart felt like it was being torn apart, word by word. I said, "Let's break up." Liu Ryu stared at me in shock for a while. Her face filled with disbelief. But in my unflinching gaze, she lowered her head and said, "You've had too much to drink." Suddenly, a beeping sound came from the living room. It was midnight. The electronic calendar skipped a day. Only 10 days left before I leave. I wanted to say something, but Liu Ryu stepped back and coldly said, "Go take a shower, rest for a bit. We'll talk when you're sober." But the words break up. I never wanted to hear them again. After the door closed, I gave a bitter smile, sighing lightly. My throat felt a little sore. I walked to the fridge, planning to grab a bottle of water, but I saw a box of Chanji's cake quietly lying inside. I paused with my hand in the air, frozen for a while. Eventually, I took out the box. The date on the box was from the previous day. It had already expired. A sudden sharp pain shot through my chest. You are you to bring me the cake I liked, but still never remembered to remind me. Maybe she really did like me, but it was only that kind of superficial love. I raised my hand and threw the cake into the trash can at my feet. In the following days, Liu Ryu came and went. We never saw each other. I didn't know if she was purposely avoiding me or if she expected, like before, that after our argument, I would be the one to initiate reconciliation. I didn't care anymore. I just continued with my own plans. That day, I had just visited my university mentor when I suddenly received a call from Liu Ru's third party, Li Xier. On the phone, her voice was urgent as she said, "Sister-in-law, Liu Ryu has been a patient's family member. Despite the years of feelings between us, even though I had decided to break up, hearing such news so suddenly, my mind went completely blank. On my way to the hospital, I received a message from my mentor at the research institute. Yi Fan, only 1 week left. How is everything on your end? Did you review the materials I asked for?" I didn't know how serious Liu Ru's injuries were. My mind was a mess. I wanted to reply to my mentor, but my hands were shaking. I couldn't get a single word out. In the midst of my hesitation, I had already arrived. After getting out of the car, I hurried to the address Li Xia had sent me. When I found Liu Ryu, she was sitting next to the hospital bed. Jiboda was beside her, crying with tears streaming down his face marked with tear stains. They had originally come for me, but it seemed you stepped in and shielded her from something. Liu Ru's forearm was wrapped in gauze. She looked like she was all right, but Jiboda's face was pale, clearly very scared. It seemed like it was unclear who had been hurt. Liu Ryu gently comforted, "You're a man. If I didn't protect you, could you have blocked it?" The doctor, who was about to administer a tetanus shot to Liu Ryu, called out, "Dr. G, please move aside. I need to give Director Liu a tetanus shot first." Jiboda stood up and moved aside. It was then that Liu Ryu noticed me standing by the door. She softly asked, "Avin, why are you here?" My mood slowly darkened, but I still calmly replied, "Li Xia called me. She told me there was a medical dispute. I heard you were injured." "Your hand, it's injured?" "The hands of a surgeon are so important." Liu Ryu could disregard her own job. For Jiboda, she didn't even care about her own work. Liu Ryu noticed my calm expression and felt uncomfortable inside. In the past, whenever she had even the slightest pain, I would be as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. She had wanted to say it was no big deal, but after biting her lip, she changed her words and said, "Yeah, it's just a scratch on my arm." Li Xia, who had arrived, heard this and came over to take a look. She sighed in relief and said, "It's nothing serious. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. I didn't understand the situation clearly in the operating room just now. I exaggerated a bit." One of the doctors, who had just finished giving a shot, joked, "This will heal in a few days. It won't affect director Liu's wedding to Yifan at the end of the year. I often pick Liu or Yu up from work on my way. Everyone at the First City Hospital knows me. I'm a good guy. Liu Ru's colleagues like to joke with me. I noticed Jiboda, who had been ignored, wiping his tears, his face full of dejection. Suddenly, Liu, it's not the end of the year. The end of the year is too busy. The wedding date has been postponed. My heart tightened. I instinctively clenched my hands. Liu had always been low-key, but she actually spoke so openly about postponing the wedding in front of everyone. Was she worried that Jiboda would be hurt if he heard it? I forced a smile and said, yes. There are many transfers at work at the end of the year. Taking wedding leave at this time isn't very convenient. Too many people talking. I don't want it to cause a big scene. Is that so? Well, it doesn't matter. As long as Director Liu doesn't forget to treat us to the wedding banquet later. The doctor laughed and said, then push the medicine cart out of the room. Jiboda stood quietly to the side, not saying anything, looking somewhat absent. Until Liu spoke. Dr. G. About the medical dispute. The medical department still needs you to handle it. Since Liu was injured during the dispute, she has been forced to take 2 days off from work. Her hand is injured. I drove her back to the community. We didn't speak the entire way. Liu seemed to want to say something, but I always interrupted her. Don't speak. I'm driving, I'm not very steady. Don't distract me. Once we got home, Liu finally found a chance to speak. About today. It wasn't Jiboda's fault, whoever it was. I would have rushed to protect them. I nodded. I know. Go change your clothes, I said as if nothing had happened. By the way, you're injured, so you can't take a bath. Let me wipe you down with a towel. Liu let out a sigh of relief. Seeing that I didn't bring up the breakup again, she seemed to relax. Finally, 2 days off. It's good to be home and keep you company. I didn't respond. I just lowered my head and sorted out the medicine Liu needed to take. We both got busy. At that moment, Liu's phone rang twice. She looked down and unlocked it. A message from Aunt Liu came through. Since you've decided to move up the wedding date, remember to report it to the hospital early. The schedule needs to be arranged reasonably. Prepare for the wedding well. Liu replied, okay. I understand. She thought for a moment, then added, Mom, don't tell Yifan yet. I want to surprise him. I still owe him a proposal ceremony. Since I suggested breaking up, her mood had been unusually anxious. I didn't understand where the problem lay. She hadn't slept all night. The next day, she went home briefly and only told her parents about the change in the wedding date. After sorting the medicine, I took out my phone and replied to my mentor's message. Don't worry, everything is ready. I'll report on time. Only 7 days left before I leave. After replying, I casually placed my phone on the table and took Liu's jacket, which had stains on it, to the bathroom. I was wondering how to remove the stains. I heard a noise behind me. I turned around and saw you standing at the door, holding my phone. She said with a neutral expression, you received a call. It's about the luggage sent to the Beijing Aerospace Institute. They need you to sign for it. I froze for a moment. Then I remembered my mentor had warned me that anything sent by a classified unit needed to be notified in advance. I took the phone and apologized. Okay. Sorry. I'll have someone come pick it up right away. After hanging up, I quickly made a call to my mentor. Professor, the items have been sent. Please remember to pick them up. Once I finished these tasks, I lowered my eyes as if nothing had happened. The professor had been transferred to Beijing and left some items for me to send. Liu knew I had a good relationship with my mentor. And when she saw me so busy, her expression finally softened. She seemed to understand that my bad mood lately was because the professor was leaving. She comforted me. It's okay. Next time when I go on a business trip to Beijing, I'll go with you to see her. I didn't think much of her light words, but I realized that there was nothing left to make me happy. My throat tightened with a lump. I urged her, "You've been injured? Go rest for now. I'll call you when the food is ready." Liu Ru, with her uninjured hand, hugged me, then lowered her head and gently rubbed my neck, softly saying, "You're really good." I stiffened and gave a bitter smile. In my heart, I knew, no matter how good I wasn't the person she had in mind. I looked at myself through the mirror. My eyes were already red from crying. The next day, Liu Ru rested at home, and I didn't go out. It seemed like she was finally able to calm down and take a good look at this home. After a while, she suddenly asked, "Isn't there a lot missing from here?" I handed her some anti-inflammatory medicine and replied faintly, "I did some organizing before. I got rid of a lot of things." Liu Ru's hand froze in midair. I feigned ignorance and said, "Why don't you buy some new things? You must be tired of the old ones." She looked at me, thinking quietly for a moment, then suddenly smiled knowingly. Going into a new life. I guess it's time for a fresh change. I smiled too. But the moment I turned around, the sadness in my eyes nearly overflowed. In the afternoon, Li Xia called to ask, "Sister-in-law, how is Liu Ru?" I looked at Liu Ru, who was resting with her eyes closed on the couch, the sunlight streaming through the window, drawing the outline of her face like a divine figure. It was as if I had returned to the time when I was deeply in love with that young woman. My fingertips trembled slightly. "She's much better," Li Xia then said. "Wasn't she frightened yesterday? Everyone's resting today. I'll arrange a meal and apologize." My instinct was to refuse, but she became anxious. "Sister-in-law, are you still angry? You're not even giving me face." I glanced at the electronic calendar in the corner. Only 6 days left before I leave. I took a deep breath and reluctantly replied, "All right, send me the address." After hanging up the phone, I told Liu Ru about it. She didn't object. When we arrived at the restaurant, I realized that, besides Li Xia and two doctors who were close with Liu Ru, there was also Jiboder. I couldn't help but frown slightly. I'm not a petty person, but after all, I'm a man. And eating with my fiancé's first love feels a bit uncomfortable. Even though he might eventually become her ex-fiancé, I still felt uneasy. Li Xia awkwardly smiled. I ran into Dr. G after work and heard we were having dinner, so he wanted to join in on the fun. Liu Ru spoke up. That's just his personality. He likes making friends. Since we're all colleagues now, we should get along more. Suddenly, I felt a rush of discomfort. I felt like I was becoming somewhat unnecessary. But I just curled my lips, smiled, and hid the sarcasm in my eyes. I didn't say anything. After a few more rounds, Jiboda suddenly spoke up. "Today, taking this opportunity with Dr. Li, I also want to apologize to Mr. Yi. I know the last incident made you misunderstand. Sorry. Although Liu Ru had a history before you, it's all in the past now." Everyone was stunned. No one expected him to bring it up so openly. But Jiboda didn't seem to care. He picked up his glass and continued, "I'm apologizing to you. But in my eyes, I only see Liu Ru. Seeing that you're happy, I'm glad. I respect you both." After finishing his words, he drank it all in one go. How could I not see the provocation in his words? I picked up a piece of food. And I'm driving. I have to take Liu Ru home later, so I'll skip the drink. Jiboda smiled, put down his glass. Whether intentional or accidental, He didn't hold his glass steady. It fell to the ground with a sharp sound. Shards scattered everywhere. He was startled and reached to pick up the glass, but accidentally cut his finger on the broken glass. Blood immediately started to drip. Before anyone could react, Liu Ryu quickly grabbed his hand and sternly said, "Let the waiter clean it up." A surgeon's hand shouldn't be injured so casually. Although her tone was reproachful, there was clear concern in her eyes. The people at the table looked at me, then at Jibota, whose face was filled with happiness. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. I glanced at Liu Ru's injured arm. It was clearly summer, but I felt a chill spreading from my heart. My limbs involuntarily grew cold. The only thing that didn't freeze was the tears welling up in my eyes. Suddenly, I gently smiled, breaking the silence. "Continue eating. I'll leave first." Liu Ryu seemed to suddenly react. She stood up and grabbed my arm. I struggled, wanting to pull my hand away, but Liu Ryu held on tightly. The force in her grip made me feel a sharp pain, as though the pain was drilling into my bones. I finally gave up struggling, looked up into Liu Ru's eyes, and softly said, "I'm human too, and I can feel pain." Liu Ryu looked at the redness in my eyes. Her heart trembled. Her hand finally released. At that moment, Li Xia broke the silence, saying, "Dr. G, you've had too much to drink. Look, you can't even hold the cup steady. How about we call it a day?" The other two also chimed in. Jibota seemed to finally realize something. He rubbed his temples and said cheerfully, "Sorry, I've had too much. I've ruined the mood." The dinner came to an abrupt end. After everyone left, Liu Ryu and I silently walked to the car. Just as I was about to open the car door, Liu Ryu suddenly raised her hand to stop me. Even that just now, it was the doctor's instinctive reaction. When seeing someone injured, it wasn't meant to be anything. I thought to myself, if anyone else was a doctor, wouldn't they have the same reaction? Why didn't they react that way? Perhaps it wasn't a doctor's instinct, but rather the instinct of loving someone. I didn't want to confront her. I casually looked off into the distance, changing the topic. "We're almost out of anti-inflammatory medicine at home. Wait for me. I'll go buy some." After buying the medicine, as I walked around the corner, I heard a familiar voice. I followed the sound and saw Jibota under the streetlight. He had returned without me noticing. He stood by the car, Liu Ru's figure blocking half of his body. "Are you sorry? The thing I regret most is not accompanying you back to the country. You still have feelings for me." His tone carried a hint of regret and reluctance. The sky was already dim, and I could only see Liu Ru's side profile. She whispered something, but the voice was too soft. I couldn't hear clearly. I gently bit my lip. Leaning against the corner of the wall, it was standing for a while, just dark enough to allow me to cry without holding back. Pedestrians passed by. A few couples walked by. When I finally stepped out from around the corner, only Liu Ryu remained. "Why did you take so long? I was just about to come find you," Liu Ryu asked. I answered, "The pharmacy owner is old. It took a while to find the medicine." I got into the driver's seat, started the car. On the way home, Liu Ryu, who had been trying suddenly so hard to explain unusually quiet. I thought about Jibota. I couldn't help but smile sarcastically, feeling none inside. After getting home, I went to take a shower. Liu Ru's phone started ringing. When she answered, Li Xia's voice shot through the line like rapid fire. "I told you, you're crazy. You made me arrange for sister-in-law to come out, to hear her likes and sense of ceremony, to prepare for the proposal, and then you go behind my back? Jibota's injury isn't even serious. He can go later. No need to be so nervous. Anyway, don't bother me with this kind of thing again. I can't even look sister-in-law in the eye." If you propose like this, that's really something. Liu Ru interrupted her words. I will succeed. Marrying me has been Yi Fan's wish since he was little. On the other end of the phone, Li Xi laughed in frustration. Alright, I respect your wishes. Liu Ru didn't care. She glanced toward the bathroom. A week should be enough. We'll start preparing tomorrow. The next day, Liu Ru went back to work. Life gradually became busy again. Days passed by, and it seemed like nothing had changed. With only one day left until my departure, I had dinner with my parents at home. Mom, Dad, after I get into the research institute, I might have to go with my professor to the experimental base in the Northwest. I'll be out of touch for a while. Don't worry, Dad nodded. Focus on your work. I'll handle things at home. The money for the Liu family's gift has also been prepared. After dinner, I spent some more time with my parents before leaving. When I got home, I was surprised to find Liu Ru sitting on the sofa. I was a little taken aback. She had finished work this early? Liu Ru nodded. Yeah, I said I wasn't busy. By the way, I have tomorrow afternoon off. Do you have time? I glanced at the electronic calendar. Tomorrow was the day I was leaving. A brief wave of emotion flashed through my heart, but I didn't show it. I calmly asked, "What's up? Is there something you need?" Liu Ru slightly lifted her head, saying, "Mom's been pushing us to try on wedding dresses. Let's try them on, then have a meal together. I've already booked the restaurant." I quietly watched her for a moment. A smile slowly lifted the corner of my mouth, but after stepping into the room, my smile gradually faded, and my eyes filled with a touch of loneliness and relief. This joke ... This was my small, final punishment toward Liu Ru. The countdown to departure, 0 days, 6 hours. When I woke up, Liu Ru was making breakfast. She was wearing a white shirt, standing in the open kitchen, looking quite charming. When she saw me, she smiled and said, "Sit down, wait 10 minutes. It'll be ready soon." As a former international student, Liu Ru was actually quite good at cooking. But since she's always busy with work, I rarely get to taste her cooking. I raised an eyebrow and sat down. Joking. You seem quite enthusiastic today. Not picking up a scalpel, but instead grabbing as to leave drew near. I seemed to be growing calmer. I could even joke with Liu Ru. Seeing my expression, Liu Ru's smile deepened. She pushed the breakfast she made toward me. Today, I'm not busy for once. The wedding dress fitting this afternoon will be tiring, so let me treat you first. I took a bite, squinting my eyes in satisfaction, my stomach warming up. As I ate, I casually noticed Liu Ru putting another portion of breakfast into a lunchbox. I asked her, "Are you in a hurry?" Liu Ru didn't catch the tone in my voice. She nodded. "Yes, there's a seminar today. I may not have time to pick you up after it's done. We'll meet directly at the bridal shop." Hearing the words wedding dress, my heart suddenly ached. A faint wave of regret washed over me. Marrying Liu Ru had ultimately become an unattainable dream from my youth. But fortunately, my other dream to work in aerospace was about to come true. Thinking of that, I smiled calmly. All right. After Liu Ru left, I looked around the room and realized that the traces of my presence here were becoming fewer and fewer. But Liu Ru seemed not to notice. I swallowed the last bite of my breakfast, and the cleaning crew had already arrived at the door. I watched as they slowly swept away the last remnants of my presence. While I waited, Meng Tong called. "Your flight's at 1 p.m., right? Avin, are you really not letting us see you off? I don't like this feeling of farewell." I smiled at my friend's kindness. "When I come back and things are better, you can pick me up then." Meng Tong laughed heartily. "All right, I'll wait for you, future aerospace engineer Yi." I hung up the phone. accidentally opened WeChat Moments. Just as I was about to exit, I stopped. Liu Ru's colleague had posted a photo from the seminar. The one in the center. Jiboda was close to her ear. I couldn't tell what he was saying. In front of them on the table, name tags were placed side by side. I chuckled lightly, but my eyes were filled with coldness. They were the true companions, and I was just a fool barging into someone else's world. Then I thought about the breakfast Liu Ru had brought with her this morning. A wave of nausea suddenly hit my stomach. I quickly ran to the bathroom and vomited everything I had eaten. My throat felt like it was on fire. Looking at the undigested peanut butter in the vomit, a mist slowly rose in my eyes, and that mist spread into my heart. It lingered there, not dissipating for a long time. I can't eat peanuts. I'll vomit every time I do. But Liu Ru would never remember that. Outside, the cleaning staff called. "Mr. He, it's all cleaned up." I paused for a moment, then stood up and went out to settle the bill. My mentor sent a message. The research institute will send someone to the airport to pick me up. The ride-hailing app on my phone also showed that the car had arrived. I dragged the suitcase I had already packed and walked step by step out the door, not looking back, walking toward my future. On the plane, the flight attendant's sweet voice rang out. "Our flight is about to take off. Please turn off your phones." After sending my final message, I pressed the power off button. Licia rubbed her waist. Finally, this seminar was over. After sitting for the entire morning, she felt more tired than after a surgery. She turned to look at the energetic Liu Ru and couldn't help but sigh. Really, some people just make others look bad. You're the one who works overtime every day, but you still look so energized. She paused, then asked, "By the way, how's the proposal preparation going?" Liu Ru nodded and answered, "Yeah, it's all arranged." Li Xie sighed deeply. For Yi Fan's surprise, "You've packed your schedule so full. I really admire you for this." I take back what I said that day. You really don't need the sisters to cheer you on. When Liu Ru heard Yi Fan's name, a smile unconsciously curled at the corner of her mouth. She shook her head and said, "No need. I've always thought that a proposal is something between two people." As she spoke, she took out her phone. But when she saw the pinned message, her expression immediately froze.